Okay, we're going to look at how to create a walkthrough. And a walkthrough is a series of cameras positioned along a path, and the software will generate an image or a screenshot at each incrementally between each identified camera position. So they can be then stringed together to appear as if there's you're actually walking through the building. Now, keep in mind before we even start that even though Revit considers objects to be solid, a walkthrough is not going to prevent you from walking through solid objects. You're not going to see doors opening or anything like that. You're just going to go bursting through doors. Well, not bursting, but you get the idea. Up at a quick access bar, when we expand the default 3D view button, we have walkthrough. So in the options bar, what we're about to create is going to be in perspective mode, which is more realistic to look at. If we did not have that in perspective mode, then we would be able to assign a scale to the view, to each camera shot. The offset is how high is the camera up off of level 1, in this case here, so we're now ready to go. We just begin to click at different locations. And along a path. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to take this into the washroom. Now, once I'm done, I can use the check mark button here, Finish Walkthrough. There's our path. In our project browser, you'll now see there was already a walkthrough 1, which we'll look at, but there's a walkthrough 2 here as well. And this is the one we just created. If I double click on this, you can see this is actually the beginning of the walkthrough. It doesn't look like much, but the green lines you see are part of a scope box, which isn't a physical object. So I'm just going to select it and hide in view, VH. So when we select the edge of the view, the window, we have this option up here to edit walkthrough. So reset target lets us change or reset the target of the camera view if we've modified that. Size crop lets us identify width and height of the actual crop itself, which is selected. And edit walkthrough gives you 2 ribbons here. Edit walkthrough we've already looked at, but you'll see up here in the ribbon we have look like recording buttons like play, frame by frame. Keyframes are the actual locations of where the camera was clicked, where we clicked to position the camera, but frame refers to each incremental step between the cameras. Here we see that the controls the active camera, and right now we're not seeing much of anything because of the fact that the frame is now 300 out of 300 frames. We set that to 1. Remember, I began this walkthrough on the outside of the building. So now, if I go back to edit walkthrough, if I click on the play button, you can see that we are now doing a walkthrough. Now, we're going right through these cubicles. The height is roughly at the top of the cubicle because it's roughly where the eye would be. Going down that corridor towards the washrooms. Right now we're going to go to that far door, turn left, and of course you can't see the washrooms because they're lower. We do have the ability to modify whether we're looking up or looking down after the fact. But we're not going to do that with this video. So we've now got we've gone through that walkthrough. If we are happy with it, then we could export it to an AVI file, and we would do that through File, Export, scroll down to the bottom of the options, images walkthrough. We are then given the ability to define how many frames per second, i.e. how fast will this animation be. If we lower the number, you can see that the length of the video gets longer. I hate to say it, but I think that means that it will be 1 second long. I don't know, maybe it could be 1 minute. Let's try it out. We can define what the visual style will be. So let's do shaded with edges. We can modify the dimensions of the screen itself. We can include a date and timestamp. So if we click OK, it's going to ask us for a name and a location to save it. I'm going to throw this just on my desktop. Makes it easy to find. When I go click Save, it's not a very fast process. What will happen is, depending on visual style, it's actually going to have to show you as as it's being generated. And in the bottom left corner of our screen, you'll see it gives you a percentage completion. So right now, like mine says 23%. So we'll sit back here and we will wait for it to complete. You can imagine if this was set to realistic, how long this would be taking, because each shot would have to be rendered, if you will. And there we go, that's the end of it. So what we should have on our desktop is a new AVI file. I'm going to go right off the screen here. And I'm going to double click on the file and see if I can get it started here. Okay, there it is. So you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to close this. And this returns us back to our model. Now, if I go back to level 1, you can't see the path of the walkthrough. But if I go to the walkthrough view and select the edge of the walkthrough view, then I can now see the path and the targets. If I select Edit Walkthrough, I can now see the camera and I can see the target. So let's say I actually want the location of this camera to be looking at this door. What I could do is I could click and drag camera to this location and then change where the target is pointing. And let's say here I want to look at the elevator. So I'm only changing those first two targets so we can have a look. Let me set that back to frame 1 and let's hit play. Oh, well, I didn't go back to my camera view, so you can kind of see what the walkthrough looks like from above. So I am going to hit the escape key to cancel that. And let's go to the actual walkthrough view. And remember what I did. I changed the camera to look at this door, and I changed the camera to look at the elevator doors. Oh, there it was, pretty quick. There's the elevator door, and then it continues on. So I'm going to hit escape to cancel that operation. So that's how you create walkthroughs. All right, so let's say we want to have our walkthrough of the camera maybe looking up or looking down. Well, in order to do that, we need to be in a side view. So let's go to section 1. Or let's try section 2. Let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, section 1 probably is better. And what we can do is in the project browser, select, don't double click on it, but select walkthrough 2 and right click on that and it will say show camera. So you can actually see where the camera is located. And you can then go up to Edit Walkthrough. And you can now see in the big red dots where the camera is located. But you can also see, here's the camera. This is the target for that one location. So if I drag that down, the camera will be looking down. So if I drag this around to say here, I'm going to change the elevation of the target to look up. Maybe, I don't know where the washroom is. It's towards the end of the video, so let's say 250. All right, so there's the camera. Where is the target? The target might be hidden by one of the dots. Yeah, I can't quite see. So let's let's try 290. I still can't quite see it. It's probably on the other side. That must be the washroom right there, so that would make sense. So let me go to section 2, see if I can actually see that camera. Well, there's the camera. And so just click once on Walkthrough 2, show camera, edit walkthrough. Still can't see that target. Might have to actually go into a 3D view that is displaying this, so I can't quite tell where that would be. Oh well. So let me go back to 200, just so I can add some variety to this. Let's actually no, let's go back to 290. Instead of adjusting the target, let's actually move the camera down. I don't think it'll let me do that. It's interesting. I have to tab. It's letting me move the camera, but I want to actually change vertical location. Okay, it's not going to let me. That's fine. That can be done, just not in the current format that I'm working in. So let's start back at, let's go actually back to the walkthrough view. Let's set that back to 1. So let's see if we can see the difference in where the camera is looking throughout the walkthrough. Looking down a bit, looking up, looking down a bit. And between each of the key points that the camera location, key frames, that transition from looking up and looking down just is so smooth. And there we are. One last thing I want to point out is that when you're in the walkthrough, in your properties, you'll see that we have, you know, basic stuff like view name and so on, but we also have walkthrough frames. It says there are 300 frames. If you click on that, you can actually modify how many frames there are, how many frames per second. Uniform speed means that if you're turning a tight corner, will it stay the same speed, so you're zipping along around the corner? Or will it slow, or can you have it slow down when there are tight corners? So you do have that ability of changing, when you uncheck this, changing what the speed is between each of the key camera points. So that gives you a little more control, and it's really something that you need to experiment with. Okay, so that's the end of our walkthroughs.